What's up, guys? I'm back. I had a great time out in Greece. For those of you that subscribe to my LinkedIn and TikTok, you probably saw I had a bit of a tough time balancing the workaholic in me and the regular person in me, right? I guess that's kind of what happens after almost 20 years, but oh well. So in the spirit of Todd Kane and I's most recent podcast about service managers and our service manager open forum that we're actually having this week, I wanted to take some time to review 5 signs your MSP service desk needs help. Brad, roll the intro. All right, guys, so my goal today is to keep this video to 10 minutes, so we're just gonna jump right in. Now, this list is the top 5 things that I have developed a habit of looking at when first being introduced to a new MSP that has some service challenges. I will also give a few riffs.
Excellent!
On where I may start to look into how to resolve some of these. And by the way, let me know if any of these you want full-length videos on in the comments. I'm trying to keep these pretty concise, but if you're going, you know what, Kyle, that one, I really wish you could do, or really wish that I want 15 minutes of just that. Let me know and we'll go ahead and knock it out. This list is by no means, by the way, comprehensive or the most high-level things I'd look at as an owner. However, after flipping a couple MSPs, one of which had over 10,000 endpoints, and building a consulting company that helped over thousands of MSPs refine their service delivery process through tools and logic, and I can tell you that you have to start here to get to those more complex levels. And if you are a more senior manager or owner and want a video on that list, give me a like and comment below so I can go ahead and be encouraged to make that. Also, you may be very tempted to blame your PSA or ticketing tool as a reason why you can't do these 5 things, and I can tell you for certain you can. And if it's too difficult in your tool, don't be afraid of a little Excel math or bean counting. You're a manager. Act your wage. Lastly, this list is written in sequential order of where you need to start before moving on to the next one in terms of remediation. Like any growing organization that wants to mature and work smarter, not harder, I highly suggest you take each of these, dedicate at least 30 to 45 days for each section, and refine them until you can't refine them anymore. Now notice I said refine, not wait 45 days to implement. Big difference.
Just do it!
So let's get going. Number 5 on our list of signs your MSP needs help is your help desk is missing the FIFO, logic, or any documented workflow. For those that you haven't heard FIFO before, or FIFO, that is first in, first out, or basically work the tickets as they come in, not as I deem them important. Too many MSPs that I've personally seen do not have a documented process or clear expectations on working tickets as they come in. This results in easy tickets being cherry-picked and difficult tickets aging, causing customer satisfaction issues. Honestly, I've seen a ton of MSPs use the FAFO logic when it comes to service desk, as they simply just fuck around and find out. Yeah, I said it. Some simple ways, right, we can discover this is to ask, can I see your service desk ticket workflow? Or looking at the backlog of your tickets your MSP have, you'll easily see a bunch of tickets older than 14 days that have a slew of notes and no assigned owner. It's fell through the crack and no one is accountable to getting it across the line. And there are a lot that show this one, but ultimately, in order to create accountability for performance in your help desk, we need to clearly understand what the client experience and engineer expectations will be to get issues resolved. A simple way to objectively make this distinction is twofold: number of tickets open that are older than 14 days, but also look at the number of unaccountable tickets that your company has. Things like red arrows, unassigned tickets, assigned but no updates. It's easy to figure out which ones have just sat there and kind of gone stale. So at my MSP, we actually called them stale tickets. So this one is simple on where I would start. First and foremost, build out a clearly documented workflow like this one that was built by one of my best friends, Cassie Kerr, over at Pivotal Advisors to standardize your service assembly line. And never waver. Once you get this put into place, this needs to be how every single ticket goes through your system. And yes, this includes a very easy understand exception policy on when something can jump the line for P1. And real quick, I'll give this to you guys. So if we want our exception of how something comes in, let's go on the whiteboard and let's just make it. So very first and foremost, right, it's the 911. It's the office outage. We can't work. So, right, that's the number one thing that's going to happen. Second, it's the almost 911. And we are lucky as MSPs to have these things because these are the scenarios where you get a ticket from your RMM saying, hey, this thing's about to go kaplooey, right? It's about to blow up. It's about to fall apart. You want to jump on those before they fall apart. So it's pretty easy to know they get the exception. Now, after this, right, we want to pay attention to our cyber incidences. So this is the, right, either your NOC calls you, your SOC calls you, whoever's helping you out with cybersecurity says, hey, you might want to jump on this right away. And it could be something that's not really a breach or a hack. Maybe it's someone about to copy all the files off the SharePoint folder and basically be nefarious with them, right? We got to pay attention to those things. Next, VIP users. Right, this is that CEO, they can't work, they're about to go on a meeting. You probably should get to those. But at the end of the day, the only last thing that gets to jump the line, right, backup or any type of data loss. These, right, at the end of the day, these are your 911s. These are your exceptions to the rule. These ones get to go to the top of the list or to the first available engineer by any stretch of the imagination. But for the most part, they're still going to work that ticket flow. They're just going to start before something that may already be in the queue to be started next. That's it. Don't make any more exceptions. I know that front desk person that we really like has something really easy that we can knock out in 2 minutes, but it is that logic that then causes things to pile up. So I got you started on how to operate within FIFO. Go do the rest. Right now, part of this FIFO and building out this process is we need to remove the need for your technicians to have to choose what ticket they work next. So if we have a documented assembly line, I need to know ticket needs to be started, it needs to go here. Now, I know this one will be a little controversial because this can come off a little micromanaging to some. But guys, let's be real here. There's one thing us technical minds cannot stand. It is paperwork and curating tickets. And don't act like you enjoy it. Just stop. I know you want to argue for the sake of argument, but in your core of core, you don't want to do it. And guys, even at a CEO level, it is common practice to hire an assistant to manage your schedule, as time management is one of the most difficult things to do. Hell, I have an assistant that goes ahead and schedules everything I do just because I don't want to have to think about what I'm going to do next, right? And when it comes to providing service, a world where you just know what you are working on next and for how long is extremely satisfying. And no, this ticket, I get it, guys. This ticket may be too hard for Joe, that tier 1 guy, to work, but that is not a valid reason to not let Joe have a shot. Let's give Joe a try. He needs to grow up and he needs to learn like we all got the chance to. And you know what? If it is too hard, let him then escalate it and say, hey, I can't figure this out. That's the only way we are going to help all of our team members exceed, grow, right, and progress in their own career. All right, so number 4, right? We just said number 5. Number 4, I feel like the count over here. On our list of signs your MSP service desk needs help is the number of tickets escalated outweighs the number of knowledge bases that are being written. Huh? Secret stuff incoming here right now.
Your secret stuff.
So if there's one thing that I see too often on why a standard service desk flow is not possible, is that excuse we talked about earlier where this issue's too hard for Joe. Don't give him the ticket. Guys, quite simply, it's impossible to scale and build a system where tickets can be routed based off of an engineer skill set. It just doesn't happen. It might be fine when you're 8, 9, 10 employees. When you get to a service desk that's in the 30s, the 50s, the 70s, right? When I had 75 service engineers, I can tell you right now, it would be impossible to know everyone's skill level. It just doesn't work. And furthermore, this will also stagnate your teams to where your junior talent, right, Joe, your fresh souls that come in and choose IT as their careers will not get the exposure opportunity to rise to the challenge. So in the MSPs I operate, and many of the MSPs I've consulted with, we implemented a KPI, which is a relationship to track this. And basically, It's the ratio of number of tickets escalated to the number of knowledge base articles created. So going to the whiteboard, making this simple, right? This is number of escalations to the number of KBs written. Now we can represent this in a ratio, like we had 10 tickets escalated and we wrote 9. This could be in like a percentage, right? This could be 90%, right? There's so many ways we can write this, but at its core, the idea here is that for every ticket, right? Joe, the unfortunate guy we're spotlighting today, cannot resolve and has to escalate to a more knowledgeable engineer. You may call them tier 2, Rockstar, Dale. We should have efforts to document the resolution in our knowledge base so that next time Joe has the ability to fix this and walk through a knowledge base article, right? There's something that can help him follow along with so that Dale doesn't have to work that ticket anymore, right? This is that ability to drive more tickets through your tier 1 team. And if you watch any of my past videos, like deconstructing managed service profitability, the MSP video all employees should watch, keep your margins accountable, all of them have this idea of economy of scale. Now, for those of you that haven't watched those videos, simply as revenue goes up, our costs go down. That's basically our business model. And like any good assembly line, even going back to Henry Ford and building the Model T, we need to get to a point to where we have a rockstar team that can resolve the majority of the service desk needs at a junior or tier 1 level. This is a surefire way to ensure that you get to work on those amazing automation, standardization, infrastructure, things we like as engineers, and not the IT janitorial staff that bogs us down, right? How many more printer tickets do we really want to fix, guys? So to enable this, when looking at this relationship of escalations to knowledge-based practices, it is very easy to distinguish if we are coaching and enabling our more junior talent to learn and become more proficient, right? This is career pathing at its core. They can follow along with the guide. They do that guide enough times, they're not going to have to follow the guide anymore, meaning we just made them more badass. And it's a win for the MSP. It's because now we're able to handle more tickets at a lower cost because, right, Joe's more junior in his career, therefore his salary isn't equivalent to Dale, who might have been in this industry for 3 to 5 years. So it's a win-win for everybody. Now, if this is not where it needs to be, say it's at that 90%, 80%, then we need to start somewhere, right? Are we measuring escalations might be the first thing. Maybe we haven't set our systems up to do it accurately. Are we measuring knowledge base articles written? I see a lot of people that just write them and throw them in a folder and we don't take credit for them. Have we built pricing and mechanisms to allow our team to have time to do these activities like writing knowledge base articles, right? And that's why we need this workflow, right? We need the service desk workflow so that tier 2 individual has the opportunity to take a breath because the tier 1 is blocking so that they can write these articles. So, right, this is where that relationship and why that service desk is so important prior to jumping to this next step. Number 5, we will go ahead and building out that service desk workflow. Number 4, we're go ahead and we're managing how we write knowledge base articles to alleviate escalations. Now, number 3 on our list of signs your MSP service desk needs help is you're not closing more tickets than are being opened.
We're taking on water, Mr. Squidward!
Right? Yeah, it's that trusty KPI kill ratio, which is essentially the number of tickets closed to the number of tickets opened in a given time period. So, right, pretty simply, right, this 120% kill ratio that you see on screen, this is the whole idea of you have that badass service delivery process and you have this documentation to enable your team to be strong frontline men, right? Making sure they're holding the battle. And now you're struggling to keep up with demand, right? There's more things coming in than what we can knock out. This is where we start to really falter and we can easily crack this foundation we're building. And every urge in your body is to throw it all away and go back to the old process because we need all hands on deck. And where I see a lot of people go wrong with this step is that prior to implementing the service desk process is we don't have a moment to just go clean out all the old shit. And something that I've commonly done, and I'll give credit again to one of my MSPs and also Cassie, is we had a practice to where we did something called a ticket-thon when we went to a new MSP, which was, hey, all hands on deck, 1 or 2 days, nobody is doing anything but working the service desk. We tell our clients many months ahead of time, we are closed for business, we're working new shit, that's it. Or old shit, excuse me. Wow, screwing up even here. And it was that moment that we were able to say, cool, we have a clean slate, we got down to a manageable number of tickets, now let's go ahead and improve this process to prevent some of these urges to just go back to the way it was. Because guys, throwing away your process due to the previous performance is never the right way to go about things. Seen so many people implement new processes and they go right back to the old way just because of a little pain during that transition. You can't do that. You gotta hold fast, you gotta hold steady, you gotta give it a good 60 to 90 days before you really have an opinion on it. Yeah, you might need to tweak it a little bit, but don't throw the whole thing out. And let's be real, guys, you're always going to have a backlog and you're never gonna have service boards with 0 tickets. Some clients aren't available at times. You have to wait for downloads. You need verification, you fix the problem. Whatever the reason is, they're just going to exist. Meaning we need to strive to always be remaining diligent on those older tickets. Now, beyond the drowning scenario, which by the way, if you're in this position, go do that ticket-thon right now, and then let's go ahead and fix the maturity. We want to look and manage this KPIs because it can tell us a few things, right? Are our tickets being managed well? Is our dispatch team putting the FIFO logic into assigning both new and old tickets to available engineers? Are we working our tickets per our service desk flow or resorting some bad habits? Do we have sufficient engineers to work the current demand, right? Did we sell too many of them to work projects and now all of a sudden our service desk is suffering, right? It's these things that allow us to see that by looking at this KPI. And I don't want to get too into that last one because it gets into pricing, packaging, margins. But right, I just wanted to mention it because it shows that it does play a critical role into some of the more mature management processes. And what do I look for in this is if we're consistently under 100%, then it's only a matter of time before our backlog becomes unreasonable. Clients will run to the phones, they'll start to complain to our service about our service, and any chance of working that ticket, our need will be lost. Right? So we don't want our clients to make the owner sit there and go, oh my God, guys, all hands on deck and break the process, because they will, right? That's just what happens when you're an owner and your clients aren't happy. So, right, we've built out that service desk. We've built out a process of making our tier ones better. We're now making sure we're working as many tickets as we're getting or a little bit more. And we're going to get down to the last 2, right? This is exciting because this is where I start to have some fun. So, for the second most important sign that your MSP service desk needs help, at number 2 is when more than 10% of your tickets are not passing quality checks or QCs once they are completed. Wait, what? And this one might be tough, guys, especially with some of you newer managers and with some of the ticketing packages you may have. And I've had to get creative with some of my teams on this. But essentially, the idea kills 2 birds with 1 stone. As our team, and the idea here is that with a QC process, we can tell, are our teams working the service needs of our clients to the processes we expect them to? And are our managers coaching, training, and mentoring our teams to grow and succeed? Kind of gives us both sides of the coin. And guys, there are bad managers out there, and sometimes we need to hold them accountable. So when looking at this relationship, what we are looking for is when a ticket is deemed finished by an engineer, a lead or manager should look at the work they performed. If that work is not sufficient to spec, if the ticket's not completely filled out, it's not friendly to the client, right? You went ahead and put in the notes, hey client, got it done, bye. Right? We kind of want some pleasantries. We're customer service at the end of the day. We need to be able to track that ticket as failing QC and have an opportunity to review that failed ticket with the engineer, right? We always got to be mentoring, giving feedback, even though it's not fun, we got to do it. Now, while this sounds time consuming, it is. There's no way around this. This is basic service management. And I'll tell you, as your team becomes better and better and better at working tickets and delivering service, you will become better and better at QCing their work. This process starts to really get fast, really get manageable. And I know some MSPs where they're QCing hundreds of tickets a day and it doesn't take much effort. Now, granted, economy of scale, right? That they're working thousands of tickets a day. It's just what happens. But if there's anything we've learned from psychology, it is that reinforcement is best served through variable ratio intervals. Again, variable ratio intervals, and this was discovered by B.F. Skinner. So going back to Pavlov and the drooling dogs, right, what he would do is he would introduce the ringing of a bell with a steak and the dogs would drool, right? The steak would reinforce that I'm going to drool. But what happened, right, is when they start to move that steak away, they would not drool, right? They start to learn after time the bell doesn't mean anything. But what B.F. Skinner found was that you don't have to do it every time. You do not need to introduce a consequence or reward every time to inhibit a behavior. You simply need to introduce it occasionally and sometimes randomly, and that will start to reinforce the behavior. Think of it as a slot machine. The random winnings are enough to make you keep pulling that lever.
I put $1 in, I got a car. I put $1 in, I got a car.
So beyond just the act of doing QC, why I stress 10% as a threshold is our time is valuable, guys. As your company grows and scales, you will naturally have a higher volume of tickets, and it becomes a direct relationship. So what we need to ensure is that we are managing our teams and expectations so that we are continually working on tickets, not having conversations about tickets. So as that number gets beyond 10%, I start to wonder, are we holding our team accountable to the expectations we have on the service we deliver? Well, and guys, this 10% is not exact math. It's just I have found that 10% is an easy number to start honing in on that poor expectation setting. And once you have it going and it gets beyond 10%, you start to have a culture of paper whipping tickets when the going gets tough, right? It's the, I don't have enough time, so I'm not going to do the paperwork. But then it's that logic that cheats you, as if you are paper whipping tickets because there isn't enough time, then your client profitability and engineer utilization is not accurate. And then it becomes impossible for us to review our pricing, packaging, or staffing levels. So it's important. All right, guys. So we're almost at number 1, but I want to mention a couple of things that were honorable mentions that I almost wanted to put into this video, but why I had to cap it at 5. So I had some KPIs on here like percentage tickets closed through automation, effective hourly rate, agreement gross margin, service hours per user, time to ticket response or resolution, ticket escalation triage process. They were all in my head this whole time to mention here. I go a little bit more in depth in some other videos, and maybe I'll go into another 5 in a future iteration. I just felt like the ones I'm giving you right now are really what drive the whole point home. And by the way, guys, make sure to subscribe to the K7 newsletter so you can get notifications of our bi-weekly meetups that we do on Zoom, like we're doing this week with Todd Kane for service managers. We workshop a lot of tactics in sales, marketing, ops, finance. We go through the entire fort, and I just encourage you to kind of join the conversation, right? It doesn't cost any money. I just do it because I love you guys, and I really want to see you there. All right, so the number 1 thing, guys, the number 1 sign that is a surefire that your MSP service desk needs help, you had to know this was coming. Let's be real, is the service work is not equally distributed, or otherwise known as utilization numbers are not consistent across roles. Guys, I've beaten this drum so much, but let's do it again because it's important. And utilization, as I review it, just to reiterate, it is billable utilization, or sometimes referred to as billability or realized utilization. And the calculation is the number of billable hours divided by the number of available hours times 100, and that will give you your billable utilization. So if you're a full-time employee and you work 40 hours a week and you build 32 hours of work that week, you are 80% billable. So why is this the number 1 thing I look at? And honestly, the first thing I look at. If there is one roadblock you will face as a service delivery team, it is always struggling to deliver services within the budgets you have. You will always be expected to deliver more service with less people. It's aggravating. I've been there, and I've even been there in times where they don't tell us what that budget is. I'm just told to work harder. So what we want to do is make this as transparent as possible. And while that is the nature of service delivery at its core, so often we make assumptions on whether our bottlenecks are our people, our process, or our prices. So we need to adjust this last, as this one can really become a very friction or heated moment in your company. So when I pull these numbers up, right, just to get a feel for where the MSP is at prior to tackling the first 4 that we talked about, right? The things that I'm looking for is, do we have timesheets filled out right? Do we understand what dictates billable work or not, right? Is everyone billing for the same reason? Are we consistent across the teams with how we enter this information into our ticketing system, right? Some might not. You can simply tell so much in so little time by looking at the timesheets of the service delivery teams. And never in my head am I thinking about budget. I am just thinking about consistency, efficiency, and fairness, right? I'm not gonna lie, I've been on a team, myself personally, where I am making the same amount of money as the guy sitting next to me, yet I'm staying till 5:30, busting my ass, getting tickets closed, and he walks out the door at 4:25. So we have to have very objective ways to measure these things, because those things happen, and those hurt. But you can't knee jerk. You have to be methodical with getting these reports consistent before making any decision or drawing any conclusions. And guys, this is why the top 5 of my list is in the order that it is, and it's not the first thing to fix. It's because, right, once we have a great service flow, right, tickets are moving in and out, they're being escalated correctly, we're making sure the first tier teams are tackling the tickets right when they hit the desk, right, we're documenting things and we're building knowledge-based articles so we can get those knocked out, and tier 2 and tier 3 can truly work on hard stuff and more documentation. We're keeping the boat afloat by making sure we're always closing enough tickets to what's coming in and a little more. We are then able to move on to timesheets to analyze a couple of different but critical items, right? Are we overstaffed? Are we understaffed? Is our team members pulling more or less weight than others? Is our management team reviewing member efficiencies, right? Are we holding these people accountable? Is our logistics team, right, our dispatchers, properly load balancing that assigned work? Sometimes what I see is, right, because that guy's sitting next to me and he leaves at 4:25, the dispatcher likes me because I get shit done. So what do? They give me more tickets and not that guy, right? We got to make sure we see those things. And the list goes on and on and on. But what's great, guys, is when we get to a point like this, it becomes very straightforward on where the root of our service delivery issues lie. If there are still issues at this point, then it's probably people or pricing. Now, I know that is gross to hear, but that is the nature of working in a service business sometimes, is most of our work is done by people. So it's not a huge stretch to go, hey, maybe our issue is people or our people. And guys, again, it's not a fun conclusion. The effort is to objectively manage our service delivery process needs, to be as concise as possible before we start pointing fingers, right? We want to have gone through everything before we start talking about some of these performance conversations. And we're engineers at heart, right? We need to isolate the variables that can lead us to root cause one at a time. That's why we started off really early saying work on these 30 to 45 days before moving on to the next one, so that you truly know that, hey, it's working. We're good at it. Let's not overwhelm people. Let's move on to the next one, so that by the time I do get to this stage, right, a lot of these problems might already be fixed. And to tell you the truth, if you tackle this, you're going to notice just subjectively that your utilization numbers will get better by the efficiencies that you've implemented. It's just what happens. Now, if you do get here and you do have some outliers, we need to consider the following. Higher tier engineers may have lower billable utilization than lower tier engineers. At my MSP, my tier 3s would only be expected to do 65% billable work. My tier 2s, 75% billable work. My tier 1s, 85% billable work. And the reason we do that is because, right, if I'm getting every single ticket because I'm tier 1 that's coming through, I don't have time to stand up and do non-billable work. I need to sit there, get exposure, right? See as many different problems that happen in IT as possible, because the more exposure I get, even though I might be escalating a lot of tickets, I am now becoming more keen, right? I am becoming more efficient, and I'm just becoming more aware of the things that happen in IT. And if I'm someone that's going to be successful in IT, I need to see those things. I need to struggle a little bit. We've all been there, right? But what happens is I get to tier 2, right? We talked about the knowledge-based article thing. They need to write knowledge-based articles. And sometimes I can't bill a client for it if it's a very general IT practice. So I do need to make that non-billable. So it becomes very linear in that kind of dual access, dual line graph of, as you progress through your career, the lower your billable utilization will be, because maybe I'm helping out account management. Maybe I'm helping out the owner. Maybe I'm helping out the finance team. just because I need to explain them what's happening on the service or ops side. That's kind of why that happens. But what that means is we need to treat your service team as having those targets that expect the higher billable percentage for the lower tier engineers and lower billable percentage for the higher tier engineers. But this also means you need set definitions and roles for those tiers. So, right, going to our friends over in HR, we might need some refined job descriptions and seats. So, go rewatch my Deconstructing MSP Profitability video. I got all that stuff outlined in that video. So, if we have these set targets based off the tiers and we are consistently hitting above those targets, then we may have an issue where we need to add staff members, right? If everyone's at 90% billable and our kill rate's going down to 90%, we don't got enough people to work all the stuff coming in. And we can objectively say that. Kind of neat, right? So we have to have that conversation of what does adding a member look like? And if we can't afford it, right? If your ownership and leadership team are telling you guys on the P&L, we just don't have the margins, then it's either our pricing that needs to be fixed, or maybe there's a select few clients that need to be shown the door or pay more money, right? I always say the only way to affect margin is to charge more or do less. Well, maybe some clients we need to do less for, but because now we have a service delivery process and we have accurate time entry and we have a good escalation process, I can accurately go into some of my reports and say, hey, that one client opens up 30% more tickets than every other client per capita. They either need to pay more or buy something or go away. But either way, right now we're working a system to where we can actually say those things. It's not just subjective. And let's be real. If we have those targets and we can't hit them, right? We got some people just can't hit billability targets. We either need to add a lot of clients to fill that time, right? Make billable work. Or we need to have that unfortunate moment of deciding what to do about being overstaffed. And while that's not fun to hear, guys, and I know that's not the whole goal of this process, I do see a lot of MSPs that are overstaffed. And that puts a lot of stress on the company that causes it to not grow or not pay you fairly, right? If I have a whole extra engineer and you're asking for a raise and I'm not making the margins I need, right? We need to build a system to manage that, to make sure we get paid fairly. We have our bonuses. We have the margin and profit that fuels the rest of the company, like our sales team and our ops team. It's just what it is. All right, but guys, at the end of the day, I've really enjoyed making this video and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Leave your comments below just because this feedback really helps me keep making them or not make them or tweak them. I know a lot of you DM me and message me on LinkedIn. I had a few of you schedule a call with me. I really enjoyed those. So just keep doing that stuff. And if you're going to be, by the way, at Channel Company's Next Gen event on October 15th through the 17th, I actually will be emceeing a panel and giving a talk. So come say hi. I'll buy you a beer. Make sure, though, guys, to subscribe. Give me some encouragement to keep making these. And I'll see you all later on the Service Manager Open Forum this week and future meetups. See you later.